Hello, this is Robert Tech. Today I will show you how to build a powerful NAS solution using ZFS. Why did I choose ZFS? Because ZFS has features like data integrity, file compression, and file system snapshots. Also in this video, I'm going to show you how to create a ZFS pool, a dataset, and create a network share. We're also going to set up automatic ZFS snapshots. For the hardware, we're going to be using a VM in Proxmox just for the initial setup. At the end of the video, I will show you real results from my new NAS. I went with a ZFS mirror. This has been my main editing NAS for a month. It's been working smooth. I will show you my NAS specs on screen now. I went with openmediavault because I've been running it for over a year and with zero issues. openmediavault has a lot of plugins which allows you to customize functionality to your needs. So let's get started installing openmediavault. A lot of this I'm just going to skip when I edit out, but basically it's just the main settings. This would be specific to where you're located. For the name, I'm just going to put something that I know. Root password, make sure this is secure password because you don't want to have a non-secure root account. This is just your time zone. This is actually openmediavault 7. So here in the example that I'm doing this, I added 3 virtual disks. So I made this one the 21 gigs. This will be where I'm going to install the OS, and then this 34 and 34 would be like if we had 2 hard drives that we're going to be setting up as a mirror in with ZFS. So I'm just going to click on the first one to install it there. So here, choose a mirror closer to yourself. I'm just going to take United States, and I'm going to use the main mirror. I don't have a proxy. I'm just going to enter. Okay, so we finished start. So I'm just going to click continue. I'm going to click escape. I'm going to go into my hardware and remove the disk. Now I should boot up into openmediavault, and it should give us a IP address that we can connect to via the web interface. Okay, so I got the 10.0.0.168. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to open up a PuTTY session. So I'm not even going to log in just yet. So I'm just going to go into root at 10.0.0.168. Now you can accept this. I'm just going to click connect once because I'm just going to use it once. Expand this a little bit. I'm going to put my root password, the one that we set up. Now what I want to do is I'm going to install the OMV-Extras package. So if you go into the web and you search OMV-Extras, you're going to find this link here. Once you open up this link, we'll have it right here. You can just copy this command right here. This will install the openmediavault Extras to get more plugins. So now right click. That's going to install that for us. Okay, so we already finished installing. So now I'm going to go ahead and go into the web browser. I'm going to do 10.0.0.168. Now I'm going to do admin. The default is admin, and then the password is going to be openmediavault. So openmediavault. So I'm going to show the password. openmediavault. So this is the default first time you log in. First thing that I do once we log in, I usually go into the user settings. I change it to dark mode. Also another thing is make sure we change our password. So I'm going to change the password here. This is the password for the web interface. This is not going to be for the root account. So let's change it. All right, now the other thing is that if you do here, this is like the message, you can close it. You can go into the face again. You can do dashboard, and you have all these options that you can select. I usually select, I like the grid view, but it's up to you, personal preference. Okay, now we can see the information on screen. We can see that there's pending updates. Another thing that I like to do is if we go to system, we go to workbench, it automatically logs out every 5 minutes. I like to set mine on 30. Also, I like to change my connection to 443, but before we do that, we need to set up a certificate. So we need to go into certificates. I'm gonna click yes, so it's gonna ignore my 30 minutes. So we're gonna go into cell. We're gonna create a new certificate. I like to do 5 years because I don't wanna, if I forget in 1 year, I don't wanna come back. Common name, you can do the name of your server or your openmediavault. ZFS YT, that's mine. And then you just have to put the country. I'm just gonna create it like that. Now, if we go back into Workbench and we can go ahead and change this to 30 minutes. Well, I guess before we do that, let's apply the setting. It's just gonna apply the certificate or the changes of the certificate. So here we're gonna change it to 30 minutes. Then we're gonna change to SSL. We're gonna select that certificate we just created. And I'm gonna force SSL. So we're not gonna be able to use port 80 anymore. So I'm gonna save. Now this is gonna cause your session to get disconnected because this is not secure. It's using port 80 right now. So I'm just gonna click apply. Now what you need to do here, if it doesn't automatically change, we can just add https:// in front of this name. So let's see if it works. It's gonna back here. Okay, so it automatically changed. So in case yours doesn't change, just make sure you add https:// It should bring you to the HTTPS. Now this is showing unsecure because the certificate that we created, you can check the certificate, but this certificate, we created it, right? So it's not a verified certificate. That's why it's still showing not secure. So now I'm gonna sign in again, and I'm gonna use the newly created passwords that I just created. Okay, so now we're gonna go into system. We're gonna do updates. Make sure we get all the updates installed. So it's gonna take a while because it says like there's 96 updates. So of course, since I'm just edit this out, I'll just do some pieces so you can see the progress of this. Okay, we'll close and then we'll go home, dashboard. So we're just gonna search again. So you can click here and it'll show you your background tasks. All right, so we'll click close. We can go back to home. We'll need to apply this. You can always show details here, but every time you do updates, you're gonna have to apply. But not all the time, but when it tells you. So try to get all the updates set up first before we start configuring the ZFS. We're also gonna change the kernel to the Proxmox kernel. We're gonna look for the Proxmox stable kernel, and that's the one we're gonna install. Right, so we go to dashboard, you're gonna see that there's a system restart pending. So we'll just restart it. We'll reboot. It shouldn't take that long. openmediavault restarts fairly fast. Okay, so we rebooted, so I'm gonna sign in again. So now we check for updates. This will clear out right now after it refreshes. There you go. So we go back to system and we go to update management. We go search for updates. It should be all good. Okay, so I'm also gonna check date and time. Sometimes it gets changed, so mine stayed correctly. So now we're gonna go into plugins. So in plugins, I like to install the, I think it's called the flash memory. Yeah, flash memory. So what this does is that there's always like log files that get written to your SSD or your hard drive, depending. But if you use you install openmediavault on an SD card, a lot of those log writes will end up killing the SD card. But if you're using an SSD, you can this would actually benefit because you're also going to be writing less to it. So I always, in all my openmediavaults, I install this flash memory plugin. Okay, now if we go to services, we should find it there, and we shouldn't have to do anything. It's just gonna be running by itself. Now we're gonna go back to plugins, and we're gonna go into root FS. It's like actually called sharerootfs. This is like if you wanna be able to mount your SSD folder, like the actual where openmediavault is installed on. This is what that does. So I'm gonna go ahead and install this. We're not gonna use it in this example, but you can like install if you want to set up like openmediavault. Let's say you install an SSD, you can actually make a folder in this. It's not recommended because if something happens to openmediavault, you have to format the whole drive. You end up losing anything that is there, but you can do it. Now the other plugin that we're gonna get is gonna be the kernel. So you're gonna find this one here. Now you want to install Docker. I'm not gonna install Docker right now, but if you want to install Docker, you gotta go to OpenMediavault-Extras, select Docker repo, and click Save. And then in plugins, you can come in here and search for Compose. You can install this so you can get Docker installed. But this is out of scope of this video. I just want to let you know how to do it. So we're gonna go into the kernel, and in here you can find Proxmox, and I'm gonna install Proxmox kernel 6.8. So the reason I'm installing 6.8 Proxmox kernel, because if you always want to install a stable version of the kernel. I mean, it's up to you if you want to install the latest one, but if you don't want to run into any issues, you usually get a stable kernel. So 6.8 Proxmox kernel, the difference between the openmediavault kernel and the Proxmox kernel, I think is that this Proxmox kernel has the ZFS already baked into the kernel. So if you don't know, because at the time of this recording, this is January 2025, but if you're watching this video in the future and you don't know if this is the actual stable kernel, you can actually just Google search Proxmox stable kernel, and you can just open up their wiki. Let's see if it's this one. Yeah, here. So you can see here the stable 8.x release uses currently the 6.8 kernel since Proxmox v6 8.2. So that's why I ended up getting the 6.8, because that's the stable like right now. So going back, it's gonna take a little bit. Okay, so every time you install a kernel, you need to reboot the system. So like you see here, please reboot to use the new kernel. So that's what I'm gonna do. Okay, so I restarted. So I'm gonna do admin and then my password again. If you go back to system and then you go kernel, you're gonna see that now we're booted in. The default kernel is this one, Linux 6.8, which is the PVE, which is for Proxmox. So that's it. Now what we can do is go back to plugins and search for ZFS. Now we can install this kernel. I mean, not this kernel, I mean this plugin, ZFS plugin. Okay, so no errors, so everything is good. We can go back to plugins and then just do ZFS. Okay, so it's installed. Now to create a ZFS mirror, what you need to do is you need to create a pool first. So if we go into what's it called, storage, and you go into ZFS. Now keep in mind, my disks right now, they're there, but they're absolutely cleared, like 100%. So that's why I'm not gonna have any issues recognizing the disk. But in case that you have some old disks that you want to use and you don't care about the data, usually you just go in here and you would wipe them. But like basically wipe, right? You're gonna delete everything on them. Just be mindful of that. So we're gonna go to ZFS. We're gonna go to pools, and we're gonna go ahead and hit add. We're gonna add a pool. I'm gonna name my pool tank. Now this is important because some of the commands that come later would signify this name. So here's tank. Now if you're using like more than 3 hard drive, you would use a RAID Z1, which means it's basically like a RAID 5. You can lose one of the hard drives, but in this case I put 2 hard drives, so I'm gonna do a mirror. So I'm gonna click on pool type and I'm gonna change it to mirror. And if you have like 6 or more hard drives, you want to do a RAID Z2, you have 2 failure tolerances. It's basically like a RAID 6. So I'm gonna go with mirror. Devices, I'm gonna select them. If you're using USB hard drives, you're not gonna find your hard drives here. It's unsupported. You can force it through the command line, but it's unsupported, and that's why you're not gonna see them here. So here, don't mess with this. Make sure it says by ID. Mount point, I'm not gonna mess with it. It's just gonna create it under /tank. Now here I want to set the A shift. You just want to make sure this is set as 12. Compression, make sure it says LZ4. There's different compressions here if you need something else, but generally the LZ4 is what is used. So we're just going to click save, and that's going to create our pool. Now we're going to get the message to apply the changes, so I'm just going to apply. Now to create like a network share or any folders, we have to select the pool that you just created. You have to click add, and you're going to go ahead and create a file system. Because this is a pool, you need a data set. The data set would be the file system. So you're going to click here. You're going to go ahead and create a file system. It's going to be tank. I'm going to call my data set data. You can call this whatever you want. It's just going to be like /tank/ this data set. I'm not going to mess with the mountain point either because it's just going to create it the way I said, the /tank/data. So I'm just going to add and then have to apply again. So you can see here the mountain point already. Right here, you see /tank/data. Now to get this data folder created as an SMB share, a network share, you have to go into share folder. So we already have the pool created, and then we have data in the pool. So data would be the data set. Now we're going to go back to share folders. In here, we're going to do add or create, and then you're going to label this. Since I created my data set as data, I'm going to do data again. And then here in the file system, you're going to select the one with the data set, not tank, but tank/data. So in here, I'm going to remove data because I want to go ahead and mount it here, where like just mount it on the root. So it's going to be mounted under tank data. So for permission, I'm going to do, this is good. I should read write, user read write, others read. If you want to restrict access to others, you can just do this option, which that's the one I'm going to do. And then tags, you can label it so you know what it is. Data set or folder, whatever you want to call it. I want to save this. And of course, we're going to get the message again. So if you look at the absolute path now, you're going to see that since we set the relative path as /, it's just going to be the root of the folder. So it's actually, we created data and we created it in the data set, but actually it's going to be tank data. So you're going to be in the data folder when you access this. Now for the creation of the network share, before we jump here, we gotta make sure we check the permissions. So we click on it, click on this access control list, and then you have the permissions right here. So I want to change this to read, write, execute, and then I'm going to change others to none. Now I'm going to select recursive, and then I'm going to click save. This is not gonna, it's gonna do it super fast because we don't have any files, but we set up the permission. So basically anybody that has the users group will have access to this share. Generally this setup where root is the owner and group users, it works for people because you can control access by putting people on users or removing them from users. So now that is set, I'm gonna go back home. I'm gonna click users. I'm gonna go users. I'm gonna create a user. This is gonna be the user that you're gonna use for the SMB or for the network share. So I'm gonna name mine Robert. Now I'm gonna create a password for this. Okay, now shell, I like to use bash. This in case that you're gonna sign in with this account. If you're not gonna sign in with this account, then this doesn't matter. Groups, since I'm gonna be using this account to log in, I'm gonna give it the SSH group, and then I'm gonna also give it the users group and the sudo group. So sudo, what it does is that you can run root commands. You just do sudo in front. That's in case that this is gonna be your main account, and then I'm gonna give it users. So you're gonna be able to access the network share because you're part of the users group. All right, so I'm gonna click save, apply. Now we need to create the SMB share. So we go back to services. You can find SMB in here. You can click settings and you're gonna enable this. Now you can change the protocol here. I'm just gonna leave it in SMB2 for compatibility purposes. I'm gonna click save. Now it's gonna give us a message again. We don't have to accept it just yet. We can go to shares, go create, and we're gonna find our dataset folder. Now here, if you want to make this a guest share, you have changes to guest allowed or guest only. But keep in mind that this won't work because remember we set the permissions to others, no access. If you want to set it up as a guest, you would have to go back to storage and click on the ACL and change the others to have read write permissions or whatever permission you need. So I'm not gonna set this as a guest. I'm just gonna select no. So I'm gonna go ahead and apply. There's other options in here like the enable recycling bin. You can specify a size. If anything that is bigger than, let's say, 100 megs, it automatically gets deleted. Anything below gets added to a recycling bin. So just something that in case that you want this feature. So I'm just gonna save it already. Okay, so right before we access the share, I want to show you, going back to storage, ZFS pools. If you're trying to monitor your pool, right, you can just highlight it, click here on tools, and then click details. In here, you can see that our pool is called tank, and we have a mirror, and it gives us the status, right? So this is one hard drive, this is the other hard drive. So right now we are in an online state. In case that I were to disconnect one or we lose a hard drive, this would turn, the state would turn into degraded state. So this is one way to keep in mind. Also, when you have a ZFS pool, you have to do scrubs. So you really don't have to worry about scrubs, because if you go here on tools, you have scrubs. You don't really have to worry about scrubs here on openmediavault because it's automatically set to run once a month. You don't have to do anything. It's already set up by default. Now let's discuss snapshots. So you can actually snapshot if you highlight tank, right? You do add, you can add here, and then you're going to select snapshot. This would snapshot the pool itself. So if you create more data sets, I think you can restore back and it'll put you back where you are right now. So if you just want to back up your files, the one you'll do it on your data, right? So let's say you do here, add file system, you're going to select a snapshot, and I'm just going to say no files because we don't have files right now. So we'll add, well, we can't have any spaces, so I'm just going to do a dash. Okay, now we have the snapshot. We go to snapshots, we're going to have here no files. Now the reason I want to show you this is because we're going to go here, we're going to open up the other share. So we go 10.0.0. I think this one was 168 /. Okay, so we're going to put this is going to be the user that we created. Okay, so here's our data. Now we can right click, we can go ahead and test our access. We can create a folder. We can try and create a text document. And then usually I like to go into text document and write. So right here, we can do whatever, right? And we can do save. So that means that our Robert user has access. And then we can actually create another file. We can try to delete it. So you can see that our access is working. Now, here's where I want to show you about the snapshot. So right now we got two folders. If you go back and you decide to roll back, you're going to roll back to the state when you created the snapshot. So we'll go back to our folder and we do a refresh. We don't have any files. So that's something to keep in mind. Snapshots, basically, it's like, let's say you create a snapshot right now, but then you added like 10 files and then you roll back to that date. I think it protects you more if you accidentally delete. Let's say you delete a whole folder full of, let's say, movies or important files. So then you would have to roll back and then you'll get all that folder back. Now, also mention that we're going to set up the automatic snapshots. And the way to do that, we can actually go into Google again and then do like ZFS-auto-snapshot openmediavault. You're going to find this wiki here. I'm going to close this. Now, this is the page that I had when we first started the video. We can install this. Here's the link to it. We can install this. And what this does is you have frequent, hourly, daily, weekly, and monthly. All of these are set up they're turned on by default, so you'll get a snapshot every 15 minutes, and it's gonna keep 4 snapshots. It's gonna be hourly, so it's gonna keep 24 snapshots. So every hour will take another snapshot, and then daily it'll take a snapshot daily every day, and then weekly you'll keep 7 weeks of snapshots, and then monthly, so you'll have 12 months of snapshots. And these snapshots are for the file system, for the pool, and you're also gonna have the same thing for the data set. So we go here in the bottom, you can see that Rocky, this would be our tank pool. So you see how this is happening in here, and then Rocky pictures, this would be our tank data. Now you can change, like if you don't want to set, let's say you only want to have hourly snapshots, you can actually go in there and change this. You can just run ZFS set, like this command here, equals false, and then you specify tank, and that's gonna remove the, what's this one, the frequency, the frequent being, okay, so every 15 minutes. And you can, that's the way you can do it. But if you want to set up by like default, have the frequent, hourly, daily, weekly, monthly, you can just leave it as is. It actually, snapshots don't even take space unless you delete, like, so you take a snapshot now and then you delete, let's say 100 gigs. That snapshot is gonna take space. So basically you're not gonna get any space back because the snapshot is holding it. It's a hard topic. I think Lauren's system that explains the whole snapshot thing better. So yeah, let's go ahead and install this now. So I'm just gonna copy this link right here. We're gonna go back to our system. You're gonna do putty, remembers root at, and then your IP address for the openmediavault. And I'm gonna put my password. So I'll install this. This is gonna put the file here. If you do ls, you see the file right there, master.zip. We also gonna need to unzip this. So before we do that, we need to get this apt get install make and unzip. So it's gonna install make and unzip. So we'll go back, right click. Now we might need to press Y. Okay, so it already installed unzip and make. Now we're gonna cd, or we need to unzip master zip, and then we're gonna cd into that folder and then make install. So here we're gonna do unzip master, and we do an ls again, which is cd into ZFS. You can always do tab to autocomplete. Now in here we're gonna do make install. Right, so that should have installed it. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pause the video here. I'm gonna wait like 15 minutes just to make sure that we actually have. So right now we only have the no file snapshot. So we're gonna see if we get more snapshots. Another thing that I didn't cover is that if we go into system and then or not actually system networking, and then we do interfaces. Usually when you have a NAS, you want to set up a static IP address. You see how right now it's TCP? Because what happens is if you don't have a static IP address and your DHCP server gives this openmediavault a different IP, you're gonna have issues getting to your NAS. So you can just do that here, right? You can just change it to static. So I'll do 10.0.0.37. This is available in my network. What happens is in my network, what I did is my DHCP range is from 10.0.0.100 to 10.0.0.225. That means that I have from 10.0.0.2 all the way to 10.0.0.99. And then I also have the top chunk, right? So 10.0.0.226 all the way to 10.0.0.254. That's the way I set up my networks, just so I can have IPs like this. Now my subnet is 255.255.255.0 gateway. This is going to be the router address that you have, -.1, and then DNS. I'm just going to use my router to make sure he does the translations. I mean the DNS resolving. you have wake up on LAN if you need that. I'm gonna click save. Of course, once I click the apply, it's gonna kick me off because I'm in 168 and it's gonna change to 37. Actually, I'm not gonna save it because right now I already have the folder linked like this. It's gonna cause issues. So I'm just gonna put 167 for this example. Anyways, it's just a test VM for the YouTube. Another thing that you should do when you have a NAS is like you should set up notifications. So you go to systems, notifications, and then you go to settings. In here you can set up the SMTP server. So if you go to Google, you can. What I did is I created another Gmail account, and then you set up something called app access or app key or something like that. And what you do is in here you put the information for Google, which is like smtp.gmail.com, I believe it is, and then port 465, and then here it's gonna be, I think it's SSL TLS. Now you put the sender email. This would be the email you created. Authentication would be your email you created. The password, this would be the app password. Now keep in mind, if you were to do that, the app password, every time you reset the actual account password, all the app password get deleted. So the whole purpose of the app password is to allow openmediavault to send emails but not access the account as in a managing way. So that's one thing. Also, you can control the events. So if you want to monitor all of this, usually I remove everything, and I leave ZFS Z. This is so you can monitor in case you lose a drive. You'll get it in alert. You can actually leave S.M.A.R.T so you can track the condition of your disk. And if you want to keep up on the updates, you can select this 3. I mean, it's up to you. You want to do the rest. This is the main 3 that I use. Just click save. But again, I mean, right now it's not going to send me any emails because it's not set up. So for the S.M.A.R.T, we haven't set up S.M.A.R.T. We need to set up S.M.A.R.T so we can start monitoring our disk. It's not going to work in this VM because the disks that I have right now are virtual. So if we go into storage, and then you're going to find S.M.A.R.T, you need to go into settings. You can enable this. Here you can do power modes. This is in case that if it supports, if your hard drive support it. But a lot of people say don't spin down your hard drives because you add more wear every time you start them up. So I'm just gonna leave it as is. I'm gonna save, again apply. Now for the disk that you wanna monitor, you're gonna go back to S.M.A.R.T and then you're gonna click devices. Let's say you wanna monitor, let's say all the hard drives you wanna monitor, just gonna click edit. You're gonna click here, monitoring enabled. You're gonna click save. I'm just gonna add all of them. I don't know if it's what's gonna do because they're virtual. We'll see what happens. Well, I guess they're in an unknown state. But now what happens is if you were to set up the notifications and in case one of them has an issue with bad sector or something, you will get an email for it. Now you can actually go into schedule task. You can create a task. Let's say you want to create it for one of your hard drives. You can create a short test or a long test, conveyance test, offline test. You can actually set it up to run at certain times. The way that I do this is I just set up I think to run every month or something like that, but I don't enable it. So let's say I'm gonna remove the enable, and then I'm gonna do hour. I'm just gonna put hour 1, date 1. I mean, I'm just gonna put random stuff. And the reason I'm saying that because I like to. So if you really want to run it like every week or every month, make sure you put the correct information in here, because right now it's gonna run at an hour 1, right? Day 2. So I'm gonna save it like this. It's not enabled. So what I like to do is I like to run my test by manually. So let's say we created this one. This is gonna run a test, a short test on SDB. So then you can just start here. Of course, you're gonna have to go back in there and then change it to the other one or create another task. Or if you want to run the long test, also you would have to create another one or change it here. That's the way I manage it. But you can also set it up to happen automatically. But also, since like I don't run long test on my ZFS NAS because the scrubbing basically does that. So that's another thing. So you can monitor your hard drives. So I don't think this has finished doing snapshot. Let's check. Okay, so I already did some snapshots. So we have, okay, so in this first one here, you can see this was the frequent backup, and this was backing up tank, which is the pool. So right now, so it was, well, I'm not sure what time this is. But yeah, so now we have those snapshots. But I don't know, this time looks weird. Let me check my time on the system. All the time's correct. I'm not sure why, or I'm probably reading it wrong. But basically what's gonna happen here is they're gonna continue populating in case it, because remember, we're gonna get the 4 frequent, the weekly, 7 weeklies, 12 monthly. I lost track, but basically you can here. So in total, you're gonna get 4 snapshots for frequent, 24 for hourly, 31 for daily, 7 for weekly, and 12. So basically, with the default settings, it says right here, right? With default settings, all of these jobs can preserve previous states of the pool and child file system for up to an year. Okay, well, so this is already working. So now I want to show you my NAS. So I built a NAS recently, another one, but this one I used it's a Western Digital 12 terabyte drives. The thing with ZFS is that you need a lot of RAM. So on this one, I'm running 24 gigs of RAM. So you can see here on my RAM memory, we are using currently 2.57 gigs. The reason it's using so little is because I restarted it recently, like 3 days ago. But the setup that I ended up going with, I have 2 NMEs. One is a 256, that's for my OS, that's where openmediavault is installed. And then I have another NVMe that is a 1 terabyte. That was my, it was supposed to be my working drive where I put all the videos there, edited off that. But then I ended up trying to just send the videos directly to the ZFS mirror, and actually worked. So I've been editing off through the ZFS mirror. Of course, I upgraded my network. I have a UniFi 2.5 gig switch. It's one of the new ones. The small one was like $49. What am I running in my new NAS? I'm just running Nextcloud. That's the only thing that I'm running here. This is where I back up my phone. That's what I use Nextcloud for. Go to storage, ZFS. I have the same setup that we did right now, just a tank and data. It just shows you how much I'm using data wise. And also we can just check details. We can see that the information of my hard drives. And right now we have the mirror and it's online. Now I want to show you so how fast this is. So like right now you saw that the RAM is fairly low, 2.59 gigs. I also added a 2.5 gig NIC to this system. So we're just gonna open up a folder here. Okay, here. This is the one data. This is, you see the 10.0.0.11, so this is the same drive. So I'm just gonna go ahead and take a 10 gig file and then copy it in here, and so we can see the speed. Okay, so here I'm copying the file off the NAS to my desktop. So my desktop also has a 2.5 gig NIC. So right now we're kind of maxing out the connection. So the thing is that whenever you use a mirror, you double your read performance. So technically when we copy this file to my desktop, this actually has double the capacity or double the speed, the speed of 2 hard drives. I mean, of course, there's a little bit of overhead because how ZFS works. Now I'm gonna go ahead and take that file and I'm gonna go ahead and copy it back from my computer to my NAS. Now we can see we start off strong. Let me open up. So here, let me move this up. You can see that it's going 2.4 gigs per second. And then we can also see the RAM. Let me see if I can get this out the way. Okay, here you see how my RAM usage is already up because it's already caching. And then when you run out of memory, you kind of get those hiccups. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a folder and create 2 of the same files. So just so I can force it. I want to show you the real performance of it, not just when it runs in RAM. So if we go ahead and copy this folder, or let me make sure, let me put this to the side. So we can also see like the CPU usage, and we can also keep track of the network, and then we'll just copy this. Let's go. Okay, so right now we're copying, like I said, we start off strong because it loads into the RAM. By default, ZFS will use 50% of the RAM and the rest will be used by the system. So we're doing 2.4 gigs. So that's where more RAM. So we check, there's 10 gigs. So basically after 10 gigs, that's when it kind of slows down. So now you see how we're not doing the 2.4 gigs, we're doing like 2 gigs. So basically, I would want it to keep it consistently at the 2.4 gigabits per second. I would have to add more RAM. But basically, with ZFS, the more RAM, the better. But honestly, realistically speaking, I am not moving 20 gigs of files, right? So I only do like 1080p editing or recording. So that's why it works. I haven't tried any 4K. But basically was that's all in this video. If you all have any questions, let me know in the comments. If you like the video, make sure you like, subscribe. Let me know if you guys have any more video ideas. Thank you.